I'm going to open the door.
Screen door.
Hope that somebody doesn't set off their car alarm or something in the middle of this.
Oh, it's all right. It's a bit of flavourful, dear.
To not be sweating.
There's the
Sweating in my own arm.
Yes, just close the screen door.
She left the
James
note
is
on the
closing the screen door. He has shut the
Sorry, but
screen
I
door.
got to go.
He is walking back to his chair. He is adjusting his chair as he sits in it, and now
It's
he is
not like
scooting back up. He is now seated in his chair, ready for podcast.
it's not like we have to worry about letting more bugs in at this point.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, you do, but
at this time
it's
of
good
the
enough
year,
to deal with the one you have.
Yes, precisely my point.
But I mean, we got that dealt with, so that was nice.
Hopefully. It works.
Hopefully. We
It
saw
seems
another
to
one
be.
today.
Yeah, we did. I killed one in the kitchen.
Oh, neat. I mean, he said it would take a couple of weeks to really take effect. So.
Yeah, so hopefully that holds true.
And also, maybe that was one not from our apartment, so who knows?
Yeah.
Haven't heard back from him about the adjacent
Not a
inspections.
word.
Not that that's like
So
public forum knowledge for podcast, but it's
Well,
life event, so might as well.
life event. So hopefully he can inspect our adjacent neighbors and get them all squared away, because I imagine it's really going to take effect once those get all sprayed. So just in
Have
case...
the people of the pod even heard about this? I'm not sure we've mentioned it specifically.
Don't know. Yeah, we got them roaches, which, I mean, I guess depending on what part of the world you live in, that's kind of a normal thing. But I didn't, prior to this happening, I didn't know there were cockroaches in North Dakota, but yet here we are. So
And yet here we are.
we had to gut out the entire kitchen, all the cabinets.
So the guy
everything in
could spray all the
bathrooms.
corners and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, make sure everything got exterminated, and also I think the treatment sticks around for a couple of weeks is the plan.
Yeah. So hopefully this will
It
work.
wasn't like a major infestation. We only saw like one or two a day at most until he sprayed it, and then they all started coming out of the woodwork, literally.
Yeah, there was like a lot of them. We're
but
finding all over the place.
but no, it wasn't like as bad as it gets, but like
It's
we have
not
to nip
good.
it in the bud there. It's never
Yeah.
good, right? You see
'Cause
any, that's a problem.
It appears to be contained to our apartment, or to our kitchen and bathrooms and stuff, but you don't want that spreading to our other rooms, because once you have to start sorting through clothes and stuff,
That's
just not
too
that's just
much.
Bad, that's just bad news bears right there.
So no. Odds are they're coming from somebody else's apartment, but we don't know whose or why. So we're getting it figured out.
Apartment life, man. The one time I switched from living in a house to living in an apartment, that's when it hits the fan, it seems like. I mean, other than that, I guess we've only been living here for what, not even 6 months.
Yes, about 6 months. Yeah.
We moved in
little
May.
less. It was May,
So,
June, July, August,
10 minus
so
5.
in November would
October.
be 6 months.
Okay, November it's 6
Like
months.
end
Gotcha.
of November. Or, well, beginning of November. So
Somewhere
almost 6
in
months, I guess. We've already experienced quite a bit of the apartment life. So we'll see what happens in the future. We might be we've definitely discussed having like the idea of living somewhere else in the near future, and being in a similar situation when we started the podcast in terms of roommates and whatnot.
It comes full circle. Everything comes back. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
I may have gotten a little far in some places. How are we doing, guys?
Doing well. I had a video go up over the weekend. Either of you watch that?
I haven't watched
Okay.
it yet. No.
I haven't watched any of them yet.
Oh, I ought to send you a bunch of them since you're not in seminary anymore. I got 2 Zelda theories and a essay on cave storytelling.
How's
So-
that one doing so far?
So far, I mean, it's not getting the views the other ones were, which is entirely to be expected. But the response, people seem to like it.
That's good.
Andrew watched it, or our mutual in-law. He watched it and sent me a, hey, I can't wait to talk to you about it in person. So I was like, neat. He liked it. It's funny. The next one I have, I finished scripting it over the last couple of days. It's going to be a shorter one, I think. I don't know how that'll shake out. But The next one is my unhinged rant about the Disney Plus Star Wars intro.
Oh no.
Because I don't like it.
The helmets.
The
Basic,
helmets.
like from day one, this has been Nathan's complaint. So again, there's going to be nothing new for me in any of these videos.
No. It's just, this is a way for me to like process this. I'm processing.
Because for most people, it was just sort of they're doing the Marvel thing, whatever. But Nathan's like, no, this cannot be.
This, it's not right. And I'll go into more detail later. This isn't the time or place for that.
Nope.
Maybe if we
You
do a
gotta
salt cast, I might
subscribe
reopen
to
that wound.
Brosiflacask if you want to see his real thoughts.
Yeah, I guess. I don't
Are
know.
we doxing it? Are we doing that?
It's not
We
that-
already.
honestly, if anybody's
We have not yet on
going
the
there
cast.
from here, I know them personally.
Yeah.
Now, should I decide to ever send people here from there? I don't know. Do you guys want that? Do I want that? I don't know.
We have 2 listeners. Any listeners you could get our direction, I would be okay with.
And there will
Neat.
still be 2, no matter how many there are.
Because
as we all know.
ultimately, we do this podcast in such a way where it's like only the people who want to listen to it.
Yeah.
So,
We're not.
So you know what? Now that
We're not doing this for money.
no, we're definitely
I have
not.
any reach at all, I might just dox myself and say, hey, I'm involved with this.
Like Sniper Wolf.
No, she doxed Jack's film. That was a different
I never
thing.
pay attention to YouTube drama, but even I've heard of that whole shebang. Because she
He-
does React
apparent-
content,
right.
and he's like been after her for a while for doing that.
he's
And
been,
so she
like-
just doxed him,
Yeah.
or sent him a video of his house or something
like
on
that.
a
I
live
don't
stream.
know. I don't like drama. Like whenever
I
drama
don't
happens, I note that it happened and then avoid it until it's resolved. Because like going in, I gossip disgusts me.
Oh yeah,
I have an aversion to gossip in general. It's like I don't need to know the things as they unfold. Just if you had a problem,
like episode
keep it
of
contained.
Gossip
Yo,
Girls.
I'll swallow it.
right?
Episode of Gossip Girls comes up, and Nathan's just retching in a corner.
I mean, probably. I've never.
Wouldn't we
had,
all?
I've
I
never
would
had to
too,
sit
yeah.
through an episode of Gossip Girls.
Yeah, is that a show or is that a?
I think it's a show.
Okay,
I don't even know what it is. I just know the
this
name.
is the wrong.
We are the wrong podcast
to
for
be
that.
here on
knowing
the,
anything about Gossip Girls.
Here we are.
Welcome to the Gossip Girls podcast.
Welcome to the Psych fan cast. Just another thing that we're just not geared for at all. Man, imagine like being sycophantically in love with one series and making your entire living based off of that.
See, there's some things where I'm like, I really like it and I could talk a lot about it, but I couldn't do 100+ episodes of podcast about like Star Wars.
Yeah,
As much as I really
some people
like
do,
it.
man.
Some people do, and it's like, you know what? Power
Good-
to
good-
you.
good
but,
for
like,
you.
Good for
Good-
you.
good for you.
Do your thing.
I could
but it's
never.
not mine.
Yeah,
Everybody's got their thing, though, right?
yeah.
That's why we're doing this. It's because it's our thing.
I mean, as much as I love Fantastic Mr. Fox, I couldn't do an entire podcast that runs for years simply based off of the one movie.
Like, and the other thing is you have to like go into so many nitty-gritty little things. You'd have to like a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, a bunch of like stuff about the book and about like
Interviews and
Interviews
all that good stuff.
Nobody got time for
then
that.
just then after a certain point you run out of content and you have to like pick one scene and like break down the scene or like pick one character and like make some crazy conspiracy theory about how Bogus and Bean's social lives are. I don't know.
About how that
Read-
one guy is a Sith Lord.
Yeah,
Right.
compare the text to like the original Roald Dahl first edition and subsequent editions or what have you. I don't know if there's multiple editions of the book. I'm just spitballing. See, that's like the level of detail I don't go into.
And there's a time and place for that. There's channels for that. Like I like behind the scenes stuff for like
Yeah, it's interesting.
but like that's not what we're here for.
But hey, at least we're not React content makers.
In a certain manner of speaking, we are, but
It's transformative. It's review more than anything. It's reviewing
It's
commentary, not
analysis.
react.
Yeah. Because
But
it's
we're not
audio, so we
playing-
don't. Yeah.
Like we're not like playing the audio and visual of like what the episode's about every time we talk about
With
it.
like a little
This
reaction
isn't-
window.
This isn't a let's play of like the games we analyze.
I mean, we did that for a little
we
bit.
did.
that's the very first thing we did, in fact.
That was like a year ago.
No, I'm talking about the Bioshock.
Oh, the like the OG
golf
Bioshock
commentary
playthrough.
over hacking.
Yeah,
Bioshock.
James figuring out how to operate microphones and cussing the
That's
whole
still one
time.
of my favorite things we've ever done.
James,
The golf commentary.
Us shaming you for easy mode,
Yep.
and then you getting frustrated in the middle because you didn't learn about how to fight big daddies because they were all pushovers until halfway through the game when you changed to normal normal mode. And you're like, why are these guys so hard? They've always been hard. You should have learned how to fight them at this point.
Well, if you guys want to watch a train wreck in progress, you could, and I'm not just talking about like me playing the game. I mean, like there was a lot of technical issues in that
All
thing,
the stuffs,
but
man.
also some great Aaron Fonseca stand-up routines in the middle of it. Oh crap! Well, at least a buddy of ours.
Welcome to the Docs episode.
The Docs episode. We haven't talked to him in like 5 years. It's probably fine. He's on. But yeah, he had some great stand-up routine bits going in there. And after watching like Smiling Friends and like seeing some Oni play stuff every once in a while, all of a sudden, like I understand like a lot of the jokes and references he was making about 5 years after the fact. But yeah, the Bioshock playthrough was good fun.
We also did an episode on it.
Excuse me, bubble in my throat. Maybe eventually I'll finish the Twilight Princess and Halo and all those other playthrough.
We don't
edits.
need to do all of them. I don't know if we need to like edit Frogger down. Although,
Well,
like,
I don't
a one-shot
know.
episode of my descent into madness would be actually kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean,
Frogger drove me to madness.
there were some great moments in there. I'll say that. So maybe that's a winter project. It's crazy. We started doing the Twilight Princess episode like or playthrough like over a year ago already.
Yeah. I also don't mind having an outlet to make unhinged thumbnails.
Yeah.
I love some of those things.
Those
Yeah.
are good.
I made it like in partway into the second session out of like 9 or 10 that we did. It was like 12 or something.
It's like a 15-hour game.
Yeah, it's a lot of sorting. So we'll see how and when that all gets done. I'll at least want to get the Twilight Princess one done just to for the sense of accomplishment. When I don't know, my weekends are suddenly busy all the time, which is not a bad thing, I suppose, but it's not conducive to personal projects. But at least. Speaking of personal projects, we're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
And what appears to be clearly somebody's passion project, we're doing a super serial episode on Arcane.
One day, 3 lads from North Dakota were bitten by a radioactive television, and with their powers combined, they are super serial!
Yeah, the Netflix series.
Yeah,
the LOL one.
Yes,
The LOL one.
LOL, so random.
Yep. But not. I mean,
But-
very intentionally done.
Right.
Yeah.
So who
You
wants
know,
to do the synopsis?
You guys will be in charge of the synopsis
We've
because
seen it most
you have seen it
recently.
much more recently than I have.
True.
So,
I was going to comment just briefly on the fact that when I watched it 2 years ago, I'm like, there's no meat to the lore of this game. This game I have like 1,000 hours in. How are they going to make this halfway decent? I have no interest in launching it. And then I heard all of my friends giving rave reviews about it. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. And then it turns out it's really good. So
yeah.
I've never played a minute of League of Legends. Not really my thing, but
It's not really my thing either. And I learned that because I did play it for a couple months in high school because I had a couple of friends in high school who were into it at the time. It was about 2014 when it was at its like when it was really rising.
yeah.
So I tried it out. Funny enough, Jinx was one of the few characters that made sense to me. But from a gameplay standpoint,
yeah.
not from like a mental.
She's supposed to be enigmatic and kind of slightly deranged.
Right. We'll get into that. But then I'm like, you know what? This game is dumb and it's confusing and it doesn't signpost anything, and I've got to watch hours of
kind of
tutorials to
game
even.
is it?
it's
It is
a
a
MOBA.
A
Multiplayer
online battle arena.
Okay.
So basically, you got to like you and a team of 4. You push down to the other side of the map. You defeat other people's
Break
towers
the other
and have
player,
other channels.
the other team base.
Yeah,
Neat.
it's like a tower defense game, but multiplayer versus
Kind of.
kind of.
Super
simplifying
That's the
it.
most simple way to explain it.
And it's just got a bunch of characters in it, and 2 of which are the subject. Well, 3
More
of which
than 2.
actually. No, I don't know how many of those characters are champions at this point. I only recognize 3 names. Was Hammer Guy?
Hammer,
I feel like
Jace,
Hammer-
Jace is.
Jace is? Okay.
Jace is. Vi, Jinx, Victor is.
Victor?
Yeah,
Really?
Victor is. in
Heimerdinger, I know.
there.
is.
Heimerdinger.
Hammerdinger. My boy.
Heimerdinger. Maybe. Echo.
Okay.
My boy.
Oh, sure. What's her name with the purple hair? Probably. No.
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah, Caitlyn is. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
There's probably more that I'm forgetting, but
that's
those are it for now.
That's just a preview of what we're doing. So
Vander, is he in the game?
no, probably not. No.
Nope.
He is a voice actor, apparently, according to his IMDb.
Of course, he's a voice actor.
In all of them, though.
In all of them, what?
The lulls.
The lulls?
Yeah.
For the lulls?
So maybe he just played some different character.
Probably.
Perhaps. I'll look
He's
it up later.
voice acted a lot.
Point is, well, that's
Suppose we
what
could
voice
start-
actors do, man.
Yeah, but
Synopsis
not
time.
all of the people
This man
were
is quite
voice
prolific.
actors.
Like,
Like Haley
all over the
Steinfeld is
place.
not a voice actor.
No.
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 Well,
But
she's had
she
some
did a good job with
significant roles, I guess, recently, but not like a dedicated voice actor, like career person.
this. That's the whole thing.
Anyway, I suppose at some point we
synopsis.
should talk about the show. That's the game. We're talking about the
That's game
show.
that we're not talking about. Here's
No.
the thing we're actually talking about.
Arcane, the Netflix series.
So show opens up. We get kind of a flashback intro scene where Vi and her little sister Powder are escaping from a ravaged city that has been,
Devastated by these soldier-looking guys.
they get picked up by a guy on the bridge who takes them in as his own daughters and cuts to several years later. That's kind of the context here. That guy is Vander. He is kind of one of the more respected people in the Undercity, like this kind of the poor side of town, very crime-ridden, that kind of
Very
thing.
Across the
grungy.
tracks. Or
Wrong
in this
side of
case,
the
the
bridge.
river. Yeah.
Don't
wrong.
go across the Rickety Bridge.
You'll get lost. I can finally not be the only person making that reference.
Yes, I've seen Smiling Friends. Different
Because
episodes.
you go to all... We're doing about the episode.
We're not.
We're not.
Don't tempt me.
Okay.
But yeah, they go
Anyway.
across the Rickety Bridge into the dark side of town.
So anyway.
Vander's sort of like the de
He's-
facto like leader of the
Yeah.
of sorts.
He's keeping
Insofar
the
as
peace.
there
He's-
is any
Yeah.
structure or leadership.
They respect him, and he keeps people in line. Although
And he also sort of
teenage
has
kids
an-
are hard to keep in line because Vi wants to go out and do big jobs like her dad used to do. So her and a couple of friends and Powder go to the surface, and they like breaking into this high fancy schmancy science university. It's like there's a bunch of cool stuff in there, so they go rummaging around through the cool stuff in there. Powder finds some very
Shiny
illegal
blue-
blue crystals.
Yep.
So she takes a pouch full of blue crystals, accidentally drop ones, and then it freaking explodes.
Yep.
And blows up the whole lab and
calls a
blows
lot of-
their cover.
A lot
and
of cop attention.
a lot of cop attention, a lot of like board of directors attention. So anyway, the kids fly off with some junk they stole, which accidentally gets lost in the scuffle.
Because they fight a bunch of competing street urchins,
Yeah.
and Powder gets cornered and throws the stuff into a river and runs off to.
And
save
everyone's mad at her, as one would expect, because she messes up everything they do. Because she's a kid, right? She's not as athletically inclined. She's more mechanically and like, in terms of her marksmanship, those are her strengths. Whereas Vi's strength is her strength.
She punches things.
She's a punchy lady.
Yep.
So she gets a talking to from Vander, who's all like, "You can't be doing this, Vi. You gotta settle down. You gotta lie low." I don't know if it was that thick of an accent, but
Well, he has a pretty dang good accent.
yeah. So now there's a whole bunch of trouble because you got cops from the surface coming down, being like, "Hey, Vander, knock on the door."
Well, it turns out the chief of the enforcers from Piltover, which is the rich people city, has sort of an understanding with Vander, because in between the two of them, they work together to try to sort of maintain like a equilibrium of sorts.
Yeah, kind of like make sure like.
Because years ago there was like a big uprising, I guess, from the lower city, and they
Hence
tried
the
to.
opening scene.
Yep.
Where Powder and Vi's parents were both killed and such, which is why they got adopted by Vander.
So they've been working together to this point. sort of to prevent that sort of thing from happening again.
But now there's a bunch of tension because big explosion at the college.
And the rich people on the city council want somebody
Want the names,
to
the
punish.
names and faces to punish. To make an example. Speaking of the people on top, the student whose room,
Laboratory.
office, lab that was, he's getting investigated into because what's he building in there?
Jace, my boy.
So it's run by a guy named Jace. This is a rich elite school. He's not a rich elite person. He worked his way up the ladder. His father made and sold hammers and tools and stuff. He had an incident as a child with his mom. They were both lost in the mountains or whatever, and they were saved by a guy using magic. And Vander's like, ooh, no, not Vander, Jace. Names. But Jace kind of became obsessed with magic. He's like, ooh, magic's cool.
Can we use science to magic?
Can we science up the magic?
So let me get these blue crystals.
So he's working in the lab on his blue crystals, and they're like, hey, those blue crystals are illegal. You can't have those in your lab.
I'm the
Heimerdinger's
one who
like,
knocks.
those are dangerous. I've seen those wreak devastation in the past. You can't have the blue crystals.
But what if they could make us money?
I've been to New Mexico. I know how this all works. Anyway.
So it turns out the blue crystals are like crystallized magic. It's arcane energy, hence the name of the show. Wow.
Dum, dum, dum.
But like,
Cue Imagine
Heimerdinger's
Dragons.
all very wary of this. Is like, this is
dangerous. Magic is bad. I'm old.
I'm
I mean, you're adult. I'm the only one
right.
that we've seen.
There's just random fuzzy person in the world. It's great.
And the only other ones that look like him are like prostitutes.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's getting reprimanded by the school, and he's like, "But no, magic is cool. I want to do it." And this catches the attention of a fellow student who is a cripple from the Undercity.
He's like expelled from the college.
Oh, right. He was Heimerdinger's assistant.
Yep. So
Right.
he was expelled from the college by the council for refusing to admit that what he was doing was a mistake because he believes that he could create life-changing technology for everyone if he were to stick with it.
Then Heimerdinger's assistant Victor is like, "Hey, Heimerdinger confiscated all your stuff and it's in his lab. If you want to prove to them that this can work, we need to prove it to them tonight. So let's do a bunch of magic math and get your machine to work and impress the one lady on the school board
At the risk of being banished from the city.
Just one more equation.
Yeah.
right. And so they actually do manage to get it somewhat stabilized and impress the lady enough to be like, you know what, I'm gonna approve this. Let's get my seal of approval. And Heimerdinger's like,
Because she's
"No!"
something of an innovator and an idealist herself.
and also has a background we'll get into later, I suppose.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Undercity stuff is happening. Tensions are still rising. Plus, there is
Cops are walking around looking for people to punish for the explosion.
Plus, there's a bad guy who's an opportunist and trying to take control of the underworld.
He's making like the purple, the purple
steroid
juice,
use.
He's making venom from Batman,
or
the
like
stuff that Bane uses,
or like in Zootopia, like the purple flower stuff that makes people crazy.
or like in Cave Story, the red flower stuff that makes the Mimika go crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's got drugs.
Yeah.
Lots of drug references.
Yeah.
But no, he's got purple drugs, and he's like, I give them to the dude, Shimmer. And his plan is to use it to A, make people really strong like lackeys, B, get people addicted to it, and then C, take control of of the underworld. That's like his 3-step plan.
Make it the nation of Zorn
Right.
and fight and overthrow the Piltover.
Right.
Rich
Also, was he literally Vander's brother, or just kind of like a brother?
like
to him?
blood brothers, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know, like they were.
They were
You were my
bros.
brother, Anakin. I loved you.
They were
kind of a
bros.
thing.
So
Right down to
there's
the
that old
betrayal.
rivalry there, where there's
Yeah.
a betrayal and all that stuff. So that's fueling that. Mm-hmm. So where did it exactly go from here? Because we're reaching the end of the child.
So
arc stuff.
Vi decides that to protect her friends and her sister, she needs to turn herself in.
Right. Which
to-
Vander's like, no, I'm going to turn myself in, so you don't turn yourself in.
Yep.
But then someone one-ups them and says, I see your self-sacrifice and raise you a purple raging monster man.
Yep. Who kills the police chief lady and some other people.
And steals Vander and takes him to a warehouse.
Mm-hmm. And so Vi and the gang are like, let's go find Vander and rescue him.
Except you, Powder, stay home here because we don't want you to mess this up. I'm sorry. And she's like, but I won't mess up. Anyway, she looks in her bag. She's like, oh, I still have the crystals that exploded in the thing. What? I'm good at making bombs. What if I use crystal to make bomb?
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed like a great idea at the time. So she rigs up a bomb and starts running off to help her family.
Meanwhile, Vi's got Vander's punchy gloves and is trying to fight off the goons. What is the name of the main villain in the show? Silco.
That is.
So she's trying to fight off Silco and his goons, so the other two friends can like free Vander from his cherries tied into or whatever. And they nearly succeed until
they're holed up in the back room and about to let him go and get out until Jinx Powder at this point.
Yeah, Powder
decides to throw her bomb into the place and it explodes like bombs do, and causes a lot of collateral damage like bombs do.
Their two friends get killed by falling rocks.
Their two friends get killed by falling rocks. Vander gets killed by Silco, and Vi gets seriously injured and then arrested later.
Yep.
And then Powder gets blown back and realizes that people are dead because of me now, and so Silco walks up behind her.
Vi confronts her and is like, "What did you do?" And gets angry with her because she just lost her two friends.
Which
and Vander.
Good reasons to be mad, but also leaves her vulnerable for Vander to show up and be like, "Your sister hates you now." Silco? My bad names. Anyway, Silco walks up behind her. She's like, "Hey, your sister hates you now. I'm gonna be your dad."
Yeah, because Vi got
I'm adopting you today.
Got nabbed and chloroformed by the new police chief guy who's corrupt and works for Silco.
Yes. So that's where their story ends in the past.
Time jump.
Well, the people were just time jump now. Time jump now. We've got Jace is doing a bunch of cool magic stuff on the surface.
Tech.
His hex tech has revolutionized the city. It's a big trade port, and it's a whole big thing.
It's a big magic powered.
He's got a big portal.
Fast travel waypoint.
He invented fast travel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's things are prosperous and cool up there. And
they want to. Him and Victor want to take things to the next level, but.
Heimerdinger's like, that's a great idea.
That sounds dangerous. I've seen magic do bad things. I'm like,
that's a good idea. Give it another 3 decades of research and you'll get there, boys. And he's like, but Heimerdinger, we don't live thousands of years like you do. He's like, fine, boys.
Especially not Victor.
Especially not Victor.
He's always been a cripple and he's got some sort of terminal illness.
Yeah. And so he's like, maybe if we can find a way to get hex tech self-adapting and self-sustaining, we can make it heal, make it be able to create life. Maybe we can
Also, we can power new industrial technology.
Like big gloves for mining. Big hammers for mining.
We have Magic Crystal Plus. It's round now.
It also doesn't blow up when you whack it.
Mm-hmm. More stable.
More stable. So that's what's going on there. Meanwhile, Silco and his Undercity stuff are getting a little more bold and a little more in control.
They completely transformed the Undercity, really.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of drug addicts, lots of sort of cyberpunk stuff, or sort of half cyberpunk, half steampunk stuff going on.
But there's also a resistance group to Silco that'll clash with them over their what they decide to steal. So there was this is where we're introduced to Jinx. There's an airship heist where she's basically the the second in command, or not second in command, but the prize henchman of Silco at this point. Or henchwoman or whatever. And she's got her big Gatling gun. She's got her guns. And she's got her bombs. All of which are the ones that she builds. They're little nipper, chomper mans.
And Mouser.
Well, yeah. Little mousy dudes. Anyway.
Bombs.
So that's where she's at. Vi's in jail.
Yep.
Because jail.
The corrupt policeman was supposed to kill her, but he decided to imprison her for life instead.
Yeah.
Because he figured that would basically do the same thing.
That's where we start this. We also we were introduced to her earlier, but we
Vice
should probably
trauma,
mention
vice, trauma, and corruption have sort of given her a rather fractured personality and a lot of, or not Jinx. Jinx. She goes, yeah, now Powder's now Jinx
Powder's now Jinx
because they
That
called
is
her a
the
Jinx
twist.
for wrecking everything.
Yes.
So now, because of her distressed state, she just identifies as that now.
There's also Caitlin
Yeah,
that we were
Caitlin,
introduced to. She's like a
friend of Jace's,
friend of
daughter
Jace.
of a
She
rich
works for the
family.
police, that kind of a thing.
She's the daughter of a rich family, but wants to make a difference, so she works for the police. and
she becomes
now
way
we're
more-
calling weed.
Yes.
Is that a police? I'm calling weed. 420. What you smoke?
So that's she becomes important later.
Yep.
Because Jinx like messed up a
Shimmer shipment.
a shimmer shipment on the surface, and Silco's kind of like, could you not mess up, please? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're cool and you're great, and I like you. Nobody else does, because we're the only people that get each other. You know, you're nothing without me, right? And also, you're really helpful. So
We both like to kill people.
Clearly. Clearly. So Jinx kind of gets in a huffy mood, and she's like, oh, she won't let me do anything. So she goes up and blows up a building and steals a
Kills
crystal.
a bunch more cops.
Kills a bunch more cops, but also steals a magic crystal, but the stable one, the smooth round one. And so now there's, once again, on Powder's account, there are police in the Undercity trying to figure out what's going on and get some answers.
And this time the corrupt policeman is like, I'm trying to cover for you, Silco, but the council's giving me a lot of pressure.
Because Jace is on the council now, too. And he's like, well, if somebody's trying to steal my hex tech, let's crack down on things. Let's shut down the bridge. Let's shut down the gates. Let's make sure we do this right.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
But, like, what Heimerdinger said about make sure it's safe before, like, kind of got to him. It's like, you know what? Yeah, we should be responsible and be safe. So let's do this right.
Meanwhile, what's her face again?
Caitlin?
Caitlin is like, I'm going to go off rogue and investigate this myself because I'm seeing things that the head of the police doesn't seem all that interested in investigating. So she ends up finding Vi in deep dark prison.
Because she follows one of Silco's guys there to interview him. Mm-hmm.
But he had his face broken by this other
Right.
person.
And the guard's like, you can talk to him when his face is fixed. And he's like, well, what happened? He was beat up by Vi. And it's like, okay, hi, Vi. What do you know about the Undercity and Silco? You got something against him or whatever? And she's like,
yeah, I do.
Also, she shows her a picture of, like, the bomb and the crime scene. She's like, oh, crap, that's Powder's work.
Yep.
So, but she doesn't say that out loud. She's like, where did you get this picture? Who made this? But now Vi and Caitlin are teamed up, and they're going to go to the Undercity to investigate.
Yeah, she gets Vi out of jail by saying, oh, yeah, under order of Counselor Jace. When has he been a counselor? Today. But it was true.
It was true. It was very...
So they're mucking about the Undercity.
Getting information, punching people they don't like, stuff like that.
Vi gets shanked in a fight.
Yeah, well, what do you expect?
And they're holed up in this place where
That'll
Vi
happen.
and the gang used to hang out as kids. And Silco finds them because they done got betrayed by this guy who helped him find medicine.
Stuff like that, yeah.
They managed to collapse the building and get away.
They do. And also, Vi manages to reunite with Powder, and it's a great, like, hey, we're sisters again, let's go. But also...
Who's this person?
Who's
Is
this
this
new
your
person you're
replacement
awful
sister?
friendly with? Did you replace me with purple hair Caitlin lady? It's like, no, that's not how this works. Although, but Jinx is very, very self-conscious about that. She's she has also got constantly the voices of the people who died in her head talking to her all the time. And so they're pulling her every different direction because she's not sure what to feel or think.
Yep. And they're interrupted by air skateboarder people who kidnap Vi.
Hoverbike dudes.
They kidnap Vi and Caitlin and take them to their sanctuary.
Indeed.
And Jinx is left behind.
On the surface, we've got...
He's nervous.
Indeed.
Anyway, I gotta stop.
No, on the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs.
Oh, yeah.
But he
So
keeps
that
on
was-
forgetting what he wrote down. Anyway.
Where was I? on the surface, we got Jace and doing his investigation, and also Victor, like obsessed with getting Hex Tech right before he dies because
and using it to cure himself.
also Jace
discovered-
is playing politics. He didn't like it at first, but now he's a little too into it.
a little too into this other lady.
Anyway, so Victor has an accident in the lab and gets visited in the hospital. It's like, yeah, you're gonna die and it's not good. And he's like, well, now I've got to go back to. Now I've got to find something else to.
He
works.
coughed up blood and it ended up in this hex thing that they're
'Cause
using,
Magic reacts to blood apparently.
and biological matter. So he starts using it to try to see if he can get life or
Save himself.
save
So
himself by testing
magic
on plants.
plus shimmer he gets from the Undercity from a friend he made down there.
Who turns out to be the guy who made Shimmer to begin with.
Right. So he's doing that. Ends up killing his assistant because of the magic overflow or whatever. Like he had the shimmer in his system, so he was physically stronger, so he could withstand the magic. But
She got Avengers Infinite.
she got Thanos snapped by
she,
the power gem.
she a pile of ash. And Victor is quite distraught about it. And he's also got his limbs sort of transformed. Like he can walk properly now. He was a cripple before, but he's got these weird sort of magic legs and limbs. And
Magic legs.
it's sort of turning him into something different a little bit. And he's not cool with that. So
Yes.
he kind of stops. He's like, if I die, Jace, destroy the hex thing for me.
Anyway, after all... Oh, now we go back to Caitlin and Vi, who are kidnapped by one of the kid gang that Vi used to run with.
Yep.
Because
Now he's older and runs this sort of underground sanctuary where there's like a real living tree in the Undercity.
Wow.
And all these people who are Shimmer addicts, but they found like sort of a refuge where they can recover and support one another.
Yeah, this is the anti-Silco part of the underground. And it's run by one of Vi's old friends. She's like, hey, that's great.
And they disrupted the shipment that Jinx was working on at the beginning.
And they also got the gem back during their encounter with Jinx. So they're like, hey, if we bring this to the surface and talk to Jace about this, we can figure this out. We return this, we tell him about the situation, it'll be great.
Because there's tensions are rising between the Undercity and Piltover because Jace is like cracking down on corruption and stuff and closing corrupt shipments across the border. So the crime lords making money in the Undercity aren't too pleased about that.
And the businessmen who aren't so up and up on the surface aren't making money, and it's upsetting them too. It's a whole thing.
So like, okay, well, if we bring this crystal back, maybe things will die down and we can avoid war between the cities.
Or at least it'll be a step forward for us, right? Because it'll be like, oh, not all of us are bad. So Vi and crew take the crystal back up to across the bridge, but oh no, they're intercepted by Jinx and also a bunch of police officers. A bunch of people die. It's not a cool thing. Jinx gets the gem back, and Caitlin and Vi limp along over back to the upper city.
In the fight, Jinx is severely injured as well by one of her own bombs.
Yes, she is. And so Silco has to takes her to the guy who invented the
Shimmer.
and he's like, hey, can you save her? He's like, well, it'll be
I'll make her a Shimmer monster, but yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, she's in convalescence. All she has to read is the lives of the saints and stories
She wasn't
of
hit in the
chivalry.
leg by a cannonball.
But no, so they get up to the surface, and I'm going to say surface, and you're going to laugh every time.
Yep.
So they talk to Jason. He's like, hey, we went to the Undercity without permission, and this is what we found. And Jason's like, well, that's not good news. And so they take it to the council, and it's like, well, maybe we should just, I don't know, do nothing about it. That seems like a good idea.
Also, at some point, they kicked Heimerdinger off the council because he didn't want to support Hextech.
Because he was
being
being wise and cautious.
And Jason's like, I've had enough of your crap.
But Vi's like, you don't know Silco like I do. He's the type of guy that if you don't fight him, he's just going to do more bad and win more.
Now, to this point, Jace has been super reluctant to use Hextech to make weapons because he wants it to be about bettering people's
It's a tool
lives.
for building, not a tool for destruction, right?
But he makes powerful hammer anyway, because
He also Vi steals the big gloves for punching things, and they go kind of rogue to destroy the Shimmer manufacturing plant.
in Jace accidentally kills a kid who works there, and he's kind of shaken up by that, and it's like, well, that's enough of that. I'm not doing this anymore.
Vi's like, yeah, get over it, buddy. This is war.
Mm-hmm.
And
Jace has a meeting with Silco, and he's like, okay, I'll give you some concessions. If you give me Jinx, I'll give you your independent city of Zorn, and you can rule over, or Zon, yeah, and rule over it yourself and have it basically everything you ever wanted. But yeah, you have to give me Jinx, and we have to be able to put her in prison. And he's like, I love her. She's my daughter. I don't know if I want to do that.
but also, it's a really good deal. But
Meanwhile, Jinx has had about enough of all this crap, and so she kidnaps
Caitlyn and Silco and Vi, and has a great big
henchman
tea party
lady with
them.
a sword arm.
Yep. And she's like, hey, okay, Vi, level with me here.
Are you replacing me?
Are you replacing me? Because if you're not, shoot her, and then I can be your little powder again. Mm-hmm. If you don't, I'm just going to stay being Jinx, and we're enemies now, because they have been replaced as a sister. And Vi's like, that's not how this works. Please, listen, help.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Silco wakes up and is like,
Starts egging
they're
her
all
on.
against you, Jinx. And then so she reaches kind of a breaking point where she's being torn in every direction by voices, both inside and outside of her head.
Silco breaks free of the ropes and grabs a gun to shoot Vi,
But Jinx
shoots
reacts and shoots Silco.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes her upset. And she didn't want that. And as Silco dies, it's like, I would never have given you up and
never would have let you down. Never would have run around or desert you. And then he dies.
And then he dies. Say goodbye.
He made her cry.
And Jinx is like, well, now I'm going to hurt you. And so she...
It turns out this whole time has been working on this big weapon that uses the hex crystal, and she launches a
Now
big
she
old
presses
shark
R.
bomb. What's that?
Now she presses R.
Yep.
Yep. She
launches
unleashes her ult in the vague direction of the college, and
The council, meanwhile, was voting right at that moment to let the
Silco
Undercity be independent and choose peace. And
it blows up in their face.
and roll credits. That's where the series ends.
Yeah. There we go.
So far.
So far,
So far.
you'd have to think that there's going to be more to it, but
Yeah, they certainly set it up to be that way.
it could also end there.
It could.
Yeah.
It could leave you to speculate about what happens.
And also, it sets up the characters to be in the place where we see them in the game.
Right.
Aside from Jace, who I think is going to be dead.
Yeah.
Jace. Interesting.
Well, he's one of the...
Jace is in the game. So
Right, he is in the game. So, but Jace was in the room when it blew up. So
He's also got the hammer thing, which can do shields. I don't know if he had it with him in the room, but...
You bring your lethal weapon to a meeting after you swear off fighting.
Well, he had it with him when he was talking
there
to...
will be plot armor. Jace will be alive.
Yeah.
That's
Something will happen.
just something we know.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the councilwoman lady he's in love with because of her whole mommy issues.
Oh yeah,
That wasn't resolved.
That was a whole thing.
Or they could just kill everyone. I don't know.
Regardless, it was a very poignant tragedy.
Yes.
It was.
A tragedy is how I would characterize this.
This whole show is a tragedy, and
In terms of its story composition, not it's an excellent show.
yeah, it's a well put together show. But the
not a travesty.
stories and themes are, it's a tragedy, not a travesty.
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
Yes.
So what do we like about Arcane?
It's just like
It's
one
an
of those
animated series. I don't
classic-
know if we talked
yes,
about that.
we haven't mentioned that thoroughly.
Yes.
The
Quite
animation
brilliantly
is
so.
really cool. It's got this kind of hand-drawn sort of vibe to it.
It's like all the
Somewhat-
textures on all the characters and environments feel hand painted.
It's a blend of 3D and 2D, much like, well, not entirely identical to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
It predated that, but didn't go as far as that either.
Mm-hmm.
Probably due to lesser budget because Netflix, but
And it's not based on comic books, so it had a bit of a different stylistic.
it's based more on the style of the art from the game, rather than anything else.
Yeah.
But it manages to. It looks striking. It's good.
And they spend a lot of time making sequences that are just like really, really well animated.
The fight scenes are well choreographed.
And
this
the
will come
misery!
back.
Everyone wants to be my enemy.
I mean, this will come back in beauty, I imagine. But
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
I mean, Imagine Dragons are
the way
good.
things are visualized, like I rather like the Jinx versus
What was the name of
Scooter
that
guy
kid?
fight.
Yeah,
Because there was a flashback to when they were kids and would, roughhouse and play fight. And so there was this, it gave you this sense that they knew each other's moves very well. They had like this strategic familiarity. So it was like, what are they going to do now? Are they going to exactly recreate that fight?
and like it was
'Cause
just sort
Jinx
of
won that
flashing
fight.
back and forth between them now and them when they were kids, like sort of juxtaposing
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot of scenes like that. You have like when Jinx goes and fights the punching bag dummy
Yep.
and
Just like Vi
almost
did.
beats Vi's score, and it shows the flashbacks of Vi making the same moves as Jinx is going through, and they use a lot of that animation to highlight the connections between characters, which is awesome.
I also rather liked how they visualized Jinx's like psychosis going on. Because every time she had an intrusive thought or an intrusive like voice, there would be like
These little like pen scribbles, drawings, like she
yeah,
used
like
to make.
hand scribbled in the margins of a notebook, right? It would be the face of one of her friends, or like just like Vi's face, but like looking evil, but then looking nice, and so it's like whoosh, her trying to grapple with things, and it's all flashing and messy and not and like indistinct, and it's just really a neat visual that, but also fits with like her aesthetic from both the game and also like everything she scribbles on the face of her like guns and her bombs and stuff, right? So yeah, it's very stylish and well made movie. It's
Yeah,
film show.
Short film.
tightly written. It's sort of it ramps up very gradually, but very intentionally.
Yes,
A lot of interconnected storylines and stuff going.
it starts out where there's like the story starts going in several directions, and I'm like,
What are we
how's it
doing
come
here?
together? And then it comes together. And one thing I will say, the first episode or first couple episodes, when we're establishing them as kids, there was a lot of like themes and tropes and ideas I had seen a dozen other times in like
Yeah.
a dozen other shows and movies, where it was like, oh, I'm a rebellious orphan teen kid that was picked up by a guy who wants to who used to be a rebel himself, but has grown, very jaded and also
It was
wants to keep
perceived
the
as
peace.
soft in his old age,
You're
but simply
soft. I'm gonna be the next. So it's like, it felt very tropey. The first episode. I'm like, I know it gets good. This isn't where it gets good. It grows from there, and that's what tropes are good for. They're the good starting point
Springboards.
to grow off of and go different directions. And boy, this went different directions. Because like
it's almost like a completely different show.
after post time skip.
Yeah.
that's
It's
how
almost
time
like-
skips do.
It's almost how the kids grew up and experienced, living out a lot of the traumas in the way that they go through their lives.
And also, like, the breaking point for Jinx, that initial trauma of, like, being the reason her friends are dead and why she thinks her sister is dead.
Well, and always being a kid feeling like things going wrong being her fault.
And now that this thing that went very wrong is very much her fault, that guilt, that survivor's guilt.
Sort of breaks her.
That's like, oof, that's a messy feeling thing that, like, it makes her understandable without ever making her actions forgivable. It's like, yeah, she's murdering people. But, like, it makes for a really, really interesting villain origin story. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the voice lines from the game are also interesting. Like, you think I'm crazy? You should see my sister. Which was not well established at the time that Vi and Jinx were related.
Oh, interesting.
So there's some unique and interesting tie-ins from the actual game and some of that stuff. Victor becomes a cyborg. Spoiler alert.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
At least in the game.
Does he have a different name in the game, or is he
No,
just Victor?
He's just Victor.
Okay, I forgot. I forget half the champions, and then like half the champions that exist
And there's
came
probably-
into existence after I stopped playing.
Right.
And that's part of the
None of
reason I stopped
those-
playing. It's like new stuff keeps coming, and I can't understand what came before. So how am I supposed to keep up?
Yeah, none of those are present in the show.
Sure.
Echo's the newest that gets included.
Oh yeah, Echo's the street urchin kid.
Skateboard.
Yeah, skateboard man.
dude. That's who it is.
That's what his name
Echo.
is. Not that one.
Not Echo.
Icar.
No.
Yeah. And also, I'm crazy. I got a doctor's note. It's another one of my favorites.
Nice.
I do recall that one. Again, it's been like 7-8 years since I thought about playing that. So, yeah.
What else do I like? Yeah, it's just kind of like tightly written textbook kind of bring all your threads together and
In meaningful ways.
right.
Also, I liked the character. I liked how they did Jace.
All
They
the
could have
character
gone a
interactions
very
made sense.
straightforward, like
Idealist.
rich politics, idealist bad. Like they could have like done something very shallow with the politics of it, and it was a little bit shallow. But like with Jace in particular, like he tried his darndest in a bad system to keep his integrity,
and compromised in some ways.
he ended up having to compromise to work in the system
And maybe even at certain points giving into it a bit.
a bit.
And it's like it's not trying to, you know, it
didn't
makes it
villainize
understand
him for
right
it.
Because
It's
he
like,
feels
this just kinda
pressured to do
happens.
things.
Like,
This is
he wants to advance his research, and he kind of needs political allies to do that, and so he makes concessions. That's how politics often works, and it
So
doesn't vilify him for that, but it's
but it
also,
also that never says it's good.
right. It's just kind of the game.
And he also drives himself to like take drastic measures as a councilman to like do things to protect the city that ordinarily he wouldn't want to do, down to like basically letting the Undercity be independent, or at least trying to do that.
And I think that's like kind of the biggest thing. Vi, Jinx, Jace, they're all
Heck,
born
he even turns his
into-
precious tech into a weapon.
Right. They're all born into their own systems, and they are trying to figure out how to do the best they can in their systems. Some making worse decisions than others. But like, there's no one side of the tracks that's painted as the bad guy. Obviously, Silco is the bad guy, but even he has like his motives make sense. He's like, I want the city to be ruled by people who are from the city, not people who never set foot in the city or know how bad it gets down here or why it got this bad.
But he's also willing to break a few legs and skulls to get there.
You can't make an omelet without breaking a few legs.
Yep. There's the whole deal with like, it's never really explained fully like why Vander betrayed him. I think it's because
It was probably a difference in morals.
because like
Because Vander was going too soft and wanted to play like nice with them and actually work with them instead of constant revolutions.
and
for
Silco's more
revolution's
like
sake.
Viva la Revolution, and so like Vander tried to kill him, and that drove him into the dark to work on Shimmer and like his new scheme, and eventually get his revenge on Vander by shanking him again. Yeah, let's see. I guess that was mainly.
Yeah, those are kind of the cool things.
Yeah,
I like Heimerdinger's cool.
yeah. My bye.
He was always
It's the voice of wisdom,
the voice of wisdom and experience. And
because he's like one of the founding, basically the founder of the city of Piltover. Because vaguely Magic Wars back in the day, because he's like 300 or something. All my homies, anyway, and he, but basically they founded the city based on science, Meredith, to try to build a new city on a hill away from magic and stuff like that. And
But
so every
also-
time Jace is like messing about with the arcane arts, it sort of gives him pause because he watched wizards blow up cities and he doesn't want to see that happen again. But he also understands, as a scientist, the desire to progress civilization forward. So he's kind of torn. But his caution ultimately gets him booted off the council. And so now he's kind of wandering the streets looking for ways
Quite
he
contrary to him in the game, who's the most brain-dead, annoying piece of garbage. Incredibly annoying to deal with. Not the voice of wisdom at all.
No. But I also really like the scene where he goes to the Undercity, just and it's like he'd forgotten how bad it was down there, what it was like down there. He'd been away for so long. And I was like, oh yeah, we have responsibilities for this, don't we?
Yeah.
He built the city. He helped build the city that's responsible for creating the Undercity in a way. And he's like, oh yeah, I should do
And
something.
he meets Echo and like his underground people, and it's like, oh, interesting.
My boy, you've done it in here. You've created a real
refuge.
tree.
Yep.
So no, just general some cool stuff.
So I guess we can get into truth. What is true in Arcane?
People do be having trauma, and they do be living out of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
From Jinx and Vi to Silco to...
I mean, everyone has their own stuff that they're carrying, whether it's kind of as obvious and, environmental and external as it is in the Undercity, or kind of based in familial patterns and other things as the Piltoverians deal with. Like, everyone's got their stuff, and they got to deal with their stuff. Otherwise, it causes obvious problems, particularly when people are really good at putting together bombs.
And that's kind of when people are good at putting together bombs. There's the kind of general theme of violence begetting violence, which begets more violence, which further begets violence.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, we've kind of escalated to the top level because Jinx literally just nukes a building at the end. It's like, this is what the generations of abuse.
And that cycle of violence can disrupt genuine efforts towards peace.
Right. Because you're that entrenched in your hate and in your opposition that there's no such thing as reason anymore.
Well, there's a thing. Reason is harmed by the data it has. Reason is perfect. Like, in a certain respect, Jinx's actions are reasonable.
Right. There is
given what she's gone through and given the kind of principles that life has reinforced for her, like, nobody's going to stick out for me. Nobody's going to help me. I'm in charge of my own life. Like, I'm the only one who's looking out for me.
Like, her last ties have been severed at the end of the show.
Right.
She's disowned her sister and killed her own adopted father, her second adopted father, by the way. With the first one, it was part of the cause of death of.
Yep.
But also, you take a couple steps back and you realize how obviously bad and destructive and terrible
but
it is.
in her own headspace, everything followed through.
Right.
Also for Vi, constantly trying to be like Banter, falling short. Ultimately, she feels failing him to the point of where he died. Because even though she was trying to do the right thing by him, and at the very beginning, she tried to turn herself in to sort of save her family, and Banter covered for her and stuff, ultimately precipitating his death and the destruction of her whole life and imprisonment for however many years there is in the time skip. She's had a lot of time to think about life, a lot of time to punch and get nose ring and tattoos.
Like you do in jail.
Yeah. She's always had that fierce loyalty, though, and she still feels that for Powder. And, she's haunted by the trauma of, having a moment of anger towards her sister and walking away from her and, them being kidnapped and sent into a deep, dark prison. But she still feels responsible for abandoning Powder to her fate and becoming Jinx.
And not only does Jinx feel abandoned by her sister, Vi feels crushed that she abandoned her sister, even though it was a lot of things outside of her control.
And that trauma sort of prevents both of their reconciliation.
And Jinx is like, hey, we can go back to the way things were, can't we? I can be your Powder again, right? It's like, no, we have a 8 to 10 year time skip of trauma to deal with.
And bad things we've done. You've
turns
killed people.
out time changes people.
Mm-hmm.
And so they couldn't really reconcile that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what other truths, I guess? Progress has its
Dangers.
yeah, it's dangers, yeah. It's sort of like Jace's whole thing. And Victor.
And at first, Jace is like, screw you, Heimerdinger, I do what I want. I'm going to make the bigger, cooler tech. But then, like, right before he's about to announce the next wave of, like, hex tech that uses the smooth crystals and has the hammer and the gloves and stuff, Heimerdinger talks to him and is like, this is good stuff. If you give it another 10 years of research, you can get her. It'll be really
Gotta
good.
make sure it's safe.
Make sure it's safe. And Victor's like, but we can do it now. And Jace is kind of torn between do it now, do it safe. And so at the announcement, he's like, we'll show you what we have to work on later when it's ready, because it's exciting and cool stuff.
And it
this
turns out the public's introduction to it is a frickin' bomb in the council chamber at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Or at the end of the season.
But no, so he listened to Heimerdinger to the chagrin of Victor, who's like, but you were going to make...
Bro, I'm gonna die.
I'm dying over here, man. I'm dying here.
I'm dying here.
So, like, what was the point? No, but...
Progress.
The progress. So he recognized that we got to pump the brakes and be safe for the sake of, safety.
I'm sure there's people who could read, like, the contrast between Piltover and the Undercity is, like, sort of a progress always has a victim. It's like a sort of zero-sum game. Like, the rich get richer while the poor get poorer.
Mm-hmm. And there's progress happening in the Undercity, too. They make their shimmer
Lots
even
of
more...
drugs.
Lots of drugs. So
Hard
while
drugs.
tech gets better, so do the drugs.
Yeah.
It's, crime gets crimier.
That's not really what we mean by progress, though.
No, it isn't. And that's not so much its own progress. Like, it's not a direct response to what's going on up there. It's people being evil and trying to wrest control of the population over there. But
any other truths, I guess, out of Arcane? Pretty much it. Cool. Goodness. What is good in Arcane?
There's not a lot. There are some moments.
Initially,
Vander.
Vander. Yeah.
And Vander and what he tries to be and tries to represent for the kids.
Very flawed, but he sort of views the Undercity as his family. He views, obviously, the kids as his family, and is sort of a rough and tumble character himself who's made a lot of mistakes and has regrets, but he's trying to do right by his people that are under his care, and ultimately pays, the ultimate sacrifice in that effort.
And Vi inherits a lot of that sentiment. She's like dismisses Caitlyn at first as being kind of a pompous rich girl, but kind of gains respect for her when she's able to hold her own. So she's willing to adapt and be changed by other people.
And initially the bond between Powder and Vi is pretty good, but then that obviously goes off the rails.
Right. The tragedy of losing that goodness is kind of one of the main themes of that show. And, like, there's a lot of, like, good in theory, flawed in practice in this show. Jace and his aspirations with Hex Tech, right? They're good in what he wants to do. He's good in intention, but the road to hell is paved by good intentions. And so he'll make the missteps because of the system he's in, and because of the forces pulling him on either side between Victor and Heimerdinger, and also Caitlyn trying to be a good cop, trying to make a difference instead of be part of a corrupt system. So she has to go outside the system to do anything, and that's a problem.
Isn't that like the third Kung Fury reference we made in this podcast?
At least.
It's just the police.
There's nothing in particular this has to do with Kung Fury. It just keeps coming into my head.
Wait, save it for a later
There's
episode.
no Triceracop in this at all. You gotta do things by the rules.
I mean, Caitlyn is kind of like Tricerica.
Yeah.
And Vi is kind
Damn
of
it,
like
I
Kung
love you,
Fury.
Kung Fury. Oh yeah. There's
Do we have a Hitler shooting people through a phone?
Silka.
Not exactly, but kind of. Oh yeah, he tries to gas the sort of competing crime lords. I guess I don't know.
I suppose, yeah.
Silko is literally Hitler.
Yeah.
See our last episode about
About what we think about that.
about that trope.
Yep.
But like a lot of the goodness is obscured by the mightiness of the reality they live in,
Yeah.
and that's just it.
Because what is
real.
evil but a privation of good?
Yeesh.
Yeesh.
So I guess beauty. It's quite an artistically dense show.
Oh yeah, we talked a little bit about it, but like it's
Animation,
visually
the art
really
style, the execution, the music choices, the emotional set pieces, narrative construction. There's really no character interaction between like these different intertwining like sets of characters that feels forced or because these two people are characters in the game. Now they fight together. It's all very intentional and very like in context. And
Yeah, and
It's
a lot
very
of this
lean.
serves the story.
A lot of it is new. Like
Yeah.
much of it is not stuff that's really set up in the game. Like there's kind of a rivalry between Jinx and Vi, and you don't really know why.
Is there really much of a story to League of Legends? Or
There
is it just,
is.
There is,
It's
but-
much better than it used to be.
because they adapted the show into they retconned it into the lore.
nice.
And even to some degree, like it's been gradually improving over time. They've made it so that characters actually, you know, have backstories and
And they're also making a bunch of like other side games based on League of Legends characters and lore to like flesh out some other backstories and stuff.
so I've heard.
So I haven't heard much about them,
been a
whether
minute.
good they're not, but like,
Yeah.
and that I'm not
Yeah.
sure how much.
And there's lots of other interesting sets of characters that this sort of show could work with. So I'm really intrigued to see what they do with it in the future.
So, yeah, I don't know if we get like an Arcane season 2 as much as we might get a
Because
different
they-
chapter
you know,
from a
and
different part of
Ionia,
history.
Ionia versus Noxus arc and
Right, right.
stuff like that.
Yeah, because they sort of hint at outside forces and vague war in the horizon stuff with that one lady's mom. I can't remember her name.
She's from Noxus. I forget
yeah.
what her name is, but yeah.
I forget what characters are from Noxus.
Mel, that's her name.
Mel. Okay.
All the scary looking ones.
Oh, scary looking ones. Gotcha.
Unity.
Yeah, Unity. What brings it all together? Much like Goodwill Hunting, lots of trauma.
Hurt
Unlike
people.
Goodwill Hunting, no proper,
No good resolution.
no resolution.
Hurt people. Hurt people.
Yeah,
Hurt people, hurt people.
That's
yeah.
kind of the main through line.
I suppose if you played fiddle while riding a bicycle, that would be the cycle of violence. But here, it's the cycle of violence.
There's a whole lot of violence in the show.
Vi is for violence.
Yeah.
She puts the vi in violence.
Yep.
And we just need to find a lens.
But yeah, trauma be like that
They do be like that
do be like
sometimes.
because
when it's-
you don't really choose traumatic events to happen,
No, certainly.
but it's a matter of what you do with it, and each character has a different approach.
And a
to-
lot of them don't get any kind of support.
no,
Yeah.
Like they have no capacity. Like they're just not given the resources to deal with it in a good way.
mm-hmm.
It's just as of the circumstances of life, and that's kind of the other tragic angle. Is like, you know, in a better world, these people could have gotten what they need. In a better world, they wouldn't have.
The
gone
most
through these
tragic
things in the first
stories are
place.
when you can see, like, people making decisions. It makes sense if you sort of empathetically put yourself in their shoes.
It's sad that it makes
It's like
sense,
you don't really
but it
see
does.
you don't really see how, given the circumstances, it could have played out any different.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, there's tragedies where it's just like pure flukes and mistakes, but those aren't nearly as narratively interesting.
Right.
And like one of the biggest differences between a hero origin story and a villain origin story is how they respond to trauma and what they have to fall back on.
Yeah.
Because Jinx was given no recourse aside from a corrupt, twisted, evil guy. Vi was given no assistance until Caitlyn showed up, and now they're good friends. And it's like, hey, finally someone who can listen and understand. Let's work together and try and fix things now. Otherwise, Vi might have gone off the rails if she didn't have somebody to hold her down in a couple of scenes.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
That's about what we had to say.
Yeah.
I think so.
Less. Good stuff. Can recommend.
Good stuff. So yeah, I guess we'll.
For the most part.
You can find podcasts on Apple Podcasts and
You can find it on the
Spotify.
thing you're not listening on right now.
Yeah, that's true. I never really thought of that until recently. Like, wait, why do we say where you can find the podcast on the podcast?
I thought
They
that
found
from the
us.
beginning, but
You did it. Congratulations.
congratulations, you found us.
But
All two of you.
It's there to help people know where they can tell their friends to listen to.
That's true. That is true. So,
Spotify and Apple for the time being.
yeah.
That's where we are.
And we have the platingpapists@gmail.com if you feel so inclined to make a request or whatever.
Or have a topic you want us to discuss.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff for us to review.
Haven't
I
had a
really
request in a while.
enjoy doing the requests, so please request things.
It's interesting because we all have fresh perspectives on it instead of having a preformed opinion on it. It's like one person likes it and knows what to talk about. The others are like, okay, I guess.
Like Arcane, for instance, I had little to no introduction to before watching it. So, but anyway, yeah. So we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.